A very warm welcome to our young, dynamic, exceptional women leaders and entrepreneurs who have taken out their precious time to be a part of this fantastic initiative being organized by Taruni. So it's a beautiful day. It's fabulous to be in the company of such beautiful, wonderful women. So let me just quickly introduce you all these four beautiful leaders sitting out here. To start with, Dr. Namrata Chigurupati, Director, Omega Hospitals. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have with us Ms. Aparna Gorrepati, founder, Suchi Chocolates. We have with us Ms. Shweta Desiraju, founder, Brightside. A very warm welcome to you. We have amidst us Ms. Divya Chandrasekhar, Chief Operating Officer, Johnson Grammar Schools. Hello to each one of you. As all of us are aware that the objective of the panel discussion for today is how different women entrepreneurs or leaders are equitably working to change the society. So I would like to ask each one of you, according to your experiences, what are your point of views on the women, equity and society?
Actually, in the 2023, now I could say that people are more accepting of women. Yes, it's been for a few years, but since we're in 2023, there's been more acceptance as well as there's equal amounts of resistance as well. It has to come with education and younger generation improving. I usually see this kind of difference from people older, whereas the current generation is more accepting of women in senior roles.
From the industry that I come, I think it's a very male-dominated industry. And for me, what really comes up is just being fair. I think that's one word that I would always, at any given time, being fair chances, about how we kind of pull the other one up and being sensitive in the same way in the industry that I come from.
I think women working for equity creates a level playing field for everybody. It creates an ecosystem where young girls are seeing that women are in leadership roles. So we have visible role models, and I think it creates an ecosystem with a level playing field.
For me, I think equity is something that is, giving opportunity to people without having any biases. It could be gender, it could be their socio-economic status, their identity. So I think the industry that I come from, it is an education-based thing, and unlike what ma'am had just said, we are more women-dominated. So I've seen how men have also been very supportive, and adding on to what Aparna had said, I think things are changing now. I think even men are being very reciprocative of the whole fact of, the equity and everything. So I think things are moving, and I'm very positive that, in the coming generations, and I'm very glad that you've given us a platform for us to speak, because I think we speak today, but I think things will happen tomorrow and for the future generations. And I think that is where our success is going to be in terms of voicing out our opinions, especially about this whole thing.
True, very true. So I would quickly like to ask, describe equity in one word. What would that one word be according to you?
Like she said, being fair.
Okay.
It comes down to that, end of the day.
Okay. And what do you think is a significant barrier to the female equity?
The mindset, the patriarchal society we come from. I agree it's changing by leaps and bounds, but it's still there.
Great. So in your opinion, why is gender equity crucial?
No, I would not say gender equity in general, but I would say equity. I think people have to be judged based on their intellect and their capacities and the work they do than on different body parts.
Yeah, makes sense. So how would you describe equity in one word, ma'am?
I stand still, but very same, just being fair in giving the opportunities and equal opportunities, or sometimes it could be more than what it is.
What do you think is the most significant barrier to the female equity?
I think the barrier, it starts from home, right? From the way I've been brought up. I think I have two elder brothers. So for me, there was never a barrier. It was always on the same level. Like if he's given that opportunity, I was given with more emotional support to understand that it's not because she's a lady, but there are certain sensitive things that adds on to a girl child or having brothers. But I was always pushed to do what they can do. So the barrier always starts from home, and how the culture kind of, you inculcate that in your children. And that kind of work gets on to even at your work. So the barrier is all the mindset.
Exactly. So, in your opinion, why is gender equity crucial?
It's crucial for, in my terminology of work or any kind of environment that we work in, if you want a team and you want a synergy in the team and you want to work together, then I think that's the most important thing, to see that everybody's on the same platform.
Now, I would like to ask you how to describe equity in one word.
To describe it in one word, again, I would call it a level playing field.
Okay. So, what do you think is the most significant barrier to the female equity?
The significant barrier is definitely the gender stereotypes and the biases that are there. And also there is a lack of representation in leadership, representation of women in leadership. And I think that's a significant barrier.
True. So, why is gender equity crucial in your opinion?
So as a psychologist, gender equity is crucial in my opinion because it produces better health outcomes, be it physical health and mental health. So that's why it's important.
Great. So, how would you justify this? How would you describe equity in one word?
As I said before, I think providing opportunities to someone despite being biased. So I would say not being biased is something that I would connect to equity. And I think it's very crucial because, again, I agree with what my colleagues also have been saying in terms of how things should happen from home. And only then you could see a culture change and a great amount of people also having this mindset that, it's not just for one particular gender or, this position in terms of leadership or whatever it may be is only supposed to be given to a particular gender or a particular person. I think it should be beyond who we are. It should be more about our capabilities and what we are actually good at. And then, provide that position or whatever it is to us rather than being very gender specific or who they are, in terms of identity or anything of that sort.
So, what is the most significant barrier of the female equity according to you?
I think it's the mindset.
Yeah. You said that gender equity is being fair and giving opportunities. Can you share any instances from your very own experiences? Any instance wherein you feel
So I'd like to go back into the past, and in fact, when you're talking about equity, when I discovered that women are there's a bias against women, it actually came as a shock to me as a teenager, because I come from a family where my maternal grandmother is a gynecologist. In the generation where they'd asked her to get married at 16, she refused and said, no, I want to be a doctor. She got her own career, she became a gynecologist, she started practicing, and then got married at a later date. So I come from there. This was a shock. When I discovered that this was there, oh, does it happen? As a naive teenager, that's my experience. So in fact, I would say I'm very privileged to come from a background like that.
That sounds interesting. And how do you embrace equity in your personal and professional life?
So personal life, I have 2 daughters. I like to tell them that, when they, as kids, they're learning the difference of boy, girl, they're just learning actually. And then when she comes, I said, see, it doesn't matter. They're people. That's what you have to learn.
Correct.
That's my definition of it. I think that's how everything will change.
Starts. True. So what kind of strategies do you consider to include diversity and inclusivity, in your
Equal
businesses
opportunity.
or in your
Equal
company?
opportunity. When you're comparing 2 resumes, you make sure that, you decide on the capabilities alone. And I don't look at the gender. I don't look at the gender column.
So that discrimination, according to you, shouldn't be actually considered.
Yes.
Lovely. So I would now like to ask Ms. Aparna, you also said that gender equity is being fair and giving opportunities. Can you share any of the instances from your very own experiences?
My own experience, I'd probably say, because I've been in the training field for about 22 years with the corporate world.
Wow.
And it is a very, I think this happens in every field. When a woman is pregnant, she's going to go on a maternity leave. And the opportunities that had to come to you would probably go away to somebody else. So it's like, let's give her a break. But probably she's capable of doing a much more better job. There are other things that can be done. So I think that's where I find a huge barrier. where it can be done really well. But those are one of the experiences that comes into my mind.
And how do you embrace equity in your personal and professional life?
I'd like to add to what Namrata said, but I have a 16-year-old son. So it's like, for me, I better get it right, because it's engraved in my head since a child. And I better give that to him to make him understand, it's not only the skill set, but an additional skill set that you would have to give another set of person. So it's not gender biased here, but the capability of being on the same platform with a little more enhanced role.
And what kind of strategies do you basically consider to include diversity and inclusivity in your company or in your workspace?
Strategize, I probably say a little bit, being a little more emotional. I think as a woman I do have that,
Okay.
but somewhere I have to draw that line and kind of balance it out and try to include them in every single thing that we do.
Yes. So can you share any of your experiences?
Last year, we had an opportunity to work with children who are under high risk. These are boys who were rescued from trafficking, boys rescued from child labor, child abuse. And it was a fine Sunday morning, and I'd gone there. I was taking the session. It's a 3-hour session. And I remember asking them to write down 3 things that they were feeling hopeful for, that they were looking forward to maybe in the next week or in the next month. And some kids started writing something, but there was this one boy who couldn't write anything, who didn't even put the pen to his paper. So I went down to him and I explained the activity again and again. And at the end of the second time of explanation, he said, Akka, I understood the activity, but what I don't understand is the feeling that you're talking about, hope. I've never felt it. I don't know what that is. How are you asking me to write about it? And I was taken aback, because these are situations that nobody prepares you for, no matter how many years of community service you do. And that was when I said, I'm sorry, I'll get back. And inspiringly, our team sat down and they made an entirely different curriculum, including aspects that would play a huge role for every child. So we started including multiple aspects. We even teach equity now. We have a model called Privilege, Equity and Accessibility that we teach young children. And then we went back and we see that it made a lot of difference. And that is why our project is also called Wind Beneath the Wings. We want to be the wind beneath the wings of adolescents of India. And I think that has changed a lot for me personally. That was when I started looking at things, trying to bring things to a more level playing field.
That was a great experience which you have shared with us. And I would also like to know, how do you embrace equity in your personal and professional life?
So in my personal life, I think it's very important to educate ourselves, because the world is constantly growing, the world is evolving, and I can't be the same person that I was last year or the year before. I have to keep growing. So I read a lot personally, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I engage in conversations with other women leaders and people belonging to different cultures, people coming from different experiences that I may not come from. I try to be empathetic in my conversations, because that helps me understand what the other person is going through and where they are coming from.
I would also like to know something about the kind of strategies you consider to include inclusivity and diversity in your professional life and also in your workplace. Yeah.
Right. So both of my organizations, Brightside and Rising Sun, one is a mental health NGO and one is a child therapy center. Both of them stand for safe spaces. The entire idea behind both the organizations is to create safe spaces. So we believe that when we want to go out and create mentally healthy communities, our organization should be a mentally healthy community in itself first. And we can't achieve that without being equitable. So that's how we do it in our professional spaces as well.
Love the answer. I would like to know from you as well, Ms. Divya. Can you share any of your personal experiences or opinions with us?
I think when you pose this question to me, there's one instance that always comes into my head.
Yeah.
It's about 2 of my staff members, Miss Uma and Miss Anita. Both of them are have taken the role of admin head. So if you generally see what goes in their job description, it's more, people may think it's more male oriented, because you need to talk to vendors, you need to do a little bit of bargaining, you need to go and get some invoices, you need to head the sub staff, you need to head the transport, and so many things where there's a lot of walking. which maybe people think that, women are not up to the mark, or they're a little feeble because of the way we look and things like that. But I must say that these two people have aced in their profession, and I think I see them as a great inspiration daily. And I've never seen them crib about it, nor have they told that, it's something that I'm still learning. But I know that it's quite a challenge for them. But that is the mindset that you would like to have in your organization also, because that's when things seep in with the others, especially with along with me.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice, and the education field that we come from, you see there are a lot of women leading in the leadership roles. If you ask me why, I can say that it is because women have that emotional connect. Whenever you talk about a child, who do you think of? You think of the mother or the father? You think about the mother.
Yeah.
Because mother is more emotionally connected to the child. She gives that caring sort of that environment and things. So we also feel, and we believe also that, when you have one of the female people heading it or having that leadership role, it gives a lot of soothing environment even for the parents if they have any concerns and other things, So these sort of things do happen, and I think I'm very fortunate to be in an industry which has a lot of women, like I must say about 90%. Yes. And also how men have been supportive, and in terms of growing as a team with these women leading it.
How do you embrace equity in your personal and professional life?
I think I'm very fortunate to have a support system that has never taught me anything about you're a female, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's never been about, any sort of barriers. I think my husband's also been very supportive. I've come from a family where my grandmother's also been supportive, just like you. I think we need to voice out. I think my father's of a great support. I think not just me, I think I should say all our fathers should be quite supportive, because we are here and we are speaking out about women and equity more than anything. Yes. So I think, we should be having a support system that is so strong, and we should not forget that there are men as well, in this as a background pushing us forward.
Very true. And what kind of strategies do you consider to include inclusivity and diversity in your business or at your workplace?
I think there's no such strategy, to be very frank. It's just if you feel that person is good and you feel that you are confident enough that the person is able to take up that responsibility, then I think you should just give them the job despite who they are. I think it's as simple as that is.
Yes. And do you ever feel that as a woman entrepreneur or a leader, there are many challenges which you might be facing in day-to-day life? So if so, how do you tackle such problems or challenges?
Of course, there are challenges, but I think it goes back to your mindset. Yeah. And how you're brought up. If you are brought up in such a way that you've never felt like you should be doing this and that and other things, then you're quite open-minded to take things forward. So I don't think about it too much. I try to see if I'm able to do that responsibility quite well, and I think that is more than that gives me the satisfaction. So that's how I would see.
Yeah. So I would like to ask the same question to you. Which kind of challenges do you basically face as a woman leader or an entrepreneur?
Something that I face a lot is the assumption that people come with, the bias that people come with, that maybe women can't be assertive leaders, or women can't be as efficient as the other genders. And I think it is, again, our responsibility. I take it as my personal responsibility to be sort of the representation that other women can look up to. I try to make my leadership more humble. I follow humble leadership in my everyday practice, because I believe that when it comes to leadership, it's not about who is above and who is below. Rather, you have to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. And the same with the team. You have to understand your team strengths as well. So that is how I work with the biases. It helps me a lot. And definitely there is, I feel like there is very little representation of women in leadership. And I think being out there, voicing out our opinions, making sure that everybody's voice again in the organization is heard is one way to tackle it.
Right from we're Chuchi Bougainvillea. Every place or any industry would have different departments, and each one thinks they own the same.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, having diversity, inclusivity, and equity comes in, where one feels that they are part of the whole team. Equity comes where I see that one department is there on one particular level, and then I have another one which is at another level. We're trying to give equal opportunities and trying to see that each one is skilled in whatever we have, and how we kind of work around that. So I think, you know, those are the kind of things on a day-to-day basis. I will have somebody, a chef not being available. How do I add that particular skill set here? Because they are, you know, professionals in what they do. So, you know, upskilling them to get them on the same level is something that we kind of work around with. That's a ground rule there.
Yes,
So they don't have a choice. Sometimes you just have to push them. And they realize it only when they're handicapped.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's when it comes up.
Nice. And how do you basically tackle the problems or, you know, any kind of situations you face in the day-to-day workplaces? How do you tackle such kind of challenges? Do you face any kind of challenges of that
Everybody
sort?
faces. There's no question of whether you
How
do
do you-
or
yeah,
you do
yeah.
not. Everybody faces.
Yeah.
So what I believe has worked for me is, firstly, when you're in a senior level, if you're empathetic, it translates and you get what your results you want. And another most significant thing which I follow and I tell everybody I interact with, give respect and take respect. So when I respect them, invariably they're forced to respect you or you demand it.
Now, we would like to know from each one of you that do you believe that in order to overcome obstacles and bring equity, women must have additional values and skills?
So to start with, the question itself is biased. We've been talking about fairness and equity and equality and picking up people based on genders and everything. Why should you look at additional qualities? Why should women have additional qualities to do the same job a man can also do? And why should they have extra? Why should they not be treated fairly?
Absolutely.
I think the question itself is
wrong. Absolutely. I would agree with that, because we as women are capable to get our education, are capable to create our careers, open and run businesses. And I think being a woman in itself is a superpower. And I don't think we would need anything additional.
Okay, what do you have to say?
I think
about
I
that?
agree with my colleagues as well. I think we already have certain things that keeps us apart from the other gender, and that is in terms of physically, I'm saying, you know, what we can do, what we can bring into the world and things like that. But if you ask about capabilities and other things, I think we are far more superior. If you see, there are many women-run businesses that are doing quite well. I think on par with what the other gender is also doing. So I don't see that we need to have any sort of special capabilities or special, training or something like that. I think everything is given to us. The world is slowly accepting us, and we have the opportunities. I think we just need to grab them at the right time, and I think just focus on whatever we can give back to the society.
Yeah, just to add to, you know, what Divya said is, I think women as such are multitaskers, whether it's their mind or their work. I think it just goes around saying. But to add more value, I think it's for both, not being gender biased here. It could be even for men, it could be for women as well as men. So I think that's something that I'd probably say women are very good at multitasking, wherein rather than just mentioning it.
I think that is one of the things that actually sets us apart, because we can multitask, which could be a little difficult otherwise.
And adding on a very lighter note, if we are able to power through our work, colleges, and everything through our periods, I think we can do a lot as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think there was something that I kind of was watching where a man had to feel how does I think there was some machine or something.
A
which is
stimulation that they
the
get.
stimulation of having cramps. So I think that's a
Yeah.
nice thing where a person has to feel and understand it because they wouldn't know what a woman goes through or a girl goes through at that particular time. And she's the only reason why I say multitasking is having sitting here, we go through multiple mood swings and so many things that are going through our mind, trying to manage, sort out things, what's going on at home, what's going on at work, within work, what is going on. I have to go out, I have to do a number of things and a lot of chores to do. So I think that's where kudos to all the women here.
So equality and equity are societal and economic necessities, not just a women's issue. So what do you have to
I think
about
I can start off
Yeah.
here. I think the word equality and equity is somehow, I think, not taken in the right. The whole idea is, I think, somehow not put in the right way, because it's not about that. We are all here fighting for rights, women rights, or things like that. We all have rights. It's all given to us. But I think it's what we are trying to say is about equity in terms of how women are being portrayed, and I think those are the things where I think we need to focus on, rather than speaking about, because I've seen a lot of people say that, we are not given equal rights. I don't agree to it. I think we are given equal rights, but it's just that I think it's not properly channelized in a way that, you give us the credit for what we are worth for.
I would also like to add on, as a psychologist, I feel it's a societal matter because it creates better mental health outcomes for everybody. Let's take, for example, let's bring equity into place here, and let's take, for example, let's say we are giving therapy to somebody belonging to the LGBTQI community and somebody, let's say a cis woman. So when you are giving therapy, you can't provide the same therapy to everybody and say flourish. It doesn't work like that, because the societal issues, the socio-political issues that a person from the LGBTQI community may not be the same thing that a cis woman is facing. And here is where equality plays a major role, and it creates better health outcomes for everybody because we are creating equitable opportunities, accessibility and resources for everyone.
In fact, when we initially started talking about, Vaishnav came and told me about talking about equity, equality, diversity. I said, you're correlating it to Women's Day, but it's much more than that. It is much more than that. You have differentiation and discrimination based on race. Gender, I feel, is a minor thing, which at least most part of the world has actually overcome now. Like
But
race, LGBTQ.
And I think that's a very good example of, being equity, and they're two different meanings that we are talking of.
Right.
And how, sometimes people can just misuse the whole thing and just say,
Right.
not getting a fair chance.
Right.
But I think they're two different things, but they kind of club together and just speak about it. So I think that's...
An anecdote here, as a part of my MBA class, we were all applying for internship. There's this particular organization, which I don't want to name, actually only picked women because they had to fill the diversity quota.
Yeah, it does. No, but I think a lot of... They have numbers to fill.
Yes.
Yes, they have numbers to fill. That's where it goes.
And another Indian giant picked only foreigners for internships. Indians didn't get an option.
Yeah.
So would you like to add anything to the equality and equity?
I think I can
the-
share one of my colleagues' experiences. She's a principal with us, and I believe when she was trying to apply for jobs elsewhere, not in our state, elsewhere, she was called in for the interview, and she was taken aback because the panel of people sitting in the interview were all men. And then the first question they asked her was, as a woman, do you think you'll be able to do well? Would you be able to, give out the best for this job? She was like, I really cannot believe that you've asked me this in this year. I think she gave them left and right, and she just left. She said, I do not want to be in an
Absolute right
organization
thing to
where,
do.
you're having that much of doubt on me. Why did you even call me? It's a waste of time for you as well as me. I might as well just try to Look for an organization which is more open and accepting, and also is, has a trust in my capabilities. It is sad, but I think it is also, we are progressing.
It's when you give it back to them and make them understand and realize it. I guess that's when it kind of sometimes drives it.
So as I was telling you before, I do have a great support system, even in amongst my team members, where women are quite strong, and they've taught me to speak back. There's nothing wrong in speaking, because your words matter. It could be small, it could have very little impact, but there is an impact at the end of the day.
But also from, I think, the kind of work that you do, there are a lot of them who are looking up to you.
Right.
And you always are a person where when they look up to you, they learn a lot from you. Right. And the way you conduct yourself, to the way you speak and the way you tell them, it's an impact, very passive, but works on a long term is what I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a great motivational factor even for your team, in case you have a lot of women and things like that. It just pushes you, at least in the work environment, when you're not biased and you're giving them the credibility of what they are good at, despite the things that they have at home. They feel very satisfied. They want to come to work. They're happy coming to work. They want to spend more time with us.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And the inspiration is always reciprocal. As founders, as leaders, when we set an example, when we set the tone for this, you see that the organization also starts following it. And once the organization starts following it, there might be days when you're not able to do it, but you see the team following it, taking it forward, and that inspiration is reciprocal. It gets you going. It gets you to create more spaces like that.
When we're talking about teams, I have to mention, if I'm sitting in a HOD's meeting, I know that in spite of me being younger, most of the heads of departments who are male are actually very, very supportive. Today, I can confidently say that they're very supportive. I'm actually thankful to them.
Yeah, I guess that's where it comes from. I have people right from a 0 level to a level to 10 with very skilled. And when we talk, and it's also about, they understand some part of it and some they don't want to understand. And that's where they feel that, okay, she can make a difference here. They turn around when they know that they're not getting answers, and they come back to you and you have a solution for it. And I think that's where the emotional side to a professional side, you can, draw a line very well.
So now I would like to know how women in a workplace add value to the organization, to any type of organization.
She's the one who adds value, nobody else does. I'm just kidding.
As women, we add the quality of compassion to the work that we do. And I think it is, you see that it has a ripple effect on things. You having a woman in the leadership position creates more compassionate, more empathetic organizations. And it doesn't just stop at the organization, right? It goes beyond that. So let's say you have a woman in the leadership being empathetic, being kind and compassionate. You see that the employee is feeling good, and the employee takes it back home, and the employee is more kind and compassionate towards their own children, and they go to schools and they start being compassionate. So I think it has a huge ripple effect on things.
We've been talking about how women add value. That's the question.
Yes.
So to quote, when you're talking about purchase, I have 2 departments. One is like medical purchase, one is a little bit of non-medical purchase. One's headed by a woman, one's headed by a man. I honestly don't see any difference. They're both very good.
I think it's quite shocking for some people, even women, the amount of effort a teacher puts before she wakes up early in the morning, around 3:34. We have few staff members who wake up early in the morning, ensure that all the house chores are done. They are completely energetic when they come to school. They spend the whole day at school. They go back home and then tend to their family. I don't know how it is physically even possible for anybody to do it except for a woman. I think that is something, when I was talking previously, and I think adding on to what she was also saying in terms of that superpower, I think this is where I think it's that strong positive gut that we can have to like do things more and push ourselves a little more. I think that just happens physically for us, we are quite emotional in that way. Again, being a multitasker comes into the whole idea here. So I think these things set us apart. And I think we are more focused wherever we are, whatever we are doing. When you're at home, you're focused to ensure that, you know, you're giving the right nutrition or the love, the care, whatever the family needs. When you're at school, you're very professional. You know what you need to do, how you need to nurture the child, who is not yours at the end of the day. But then you forget and you feel that the child is yours. You know, these are the small little things that seep into the rest of the team as well, despite them being men. These are the small little things that they try to reciprocate, and only then we can say that an organization can grow.
I feel women have eye for detail. Eye for detail, a lot of things that others would kind of miss out. They, you know, it's very, on a lighter note, they're very nagging kind. So they know if something is wrong, they go to the depth of it, try to understand what is something that is wrong and try and get that part of it. You know, so that's a very good skill set and it makes a huge difference.
Yes.
One, if I just a very good example, if you come from a girls' school, you studied throughout, and when you go to a co-ed, it's kind of very different for you to understand how to behave or to maintain that difference or that line. Because when you're with your siblings, it's very different. But when you are, you know, with your friends, you don't know how, you know, you just left and then suddenly you're shy, you don't know how to react, or you're too loud. There are a lot of things that a girl deals with while she's growing and when she's in a company as well. So that, you know, when you're working together, the men also know that there is a line, there is a tone that you need to, the way you speak to people. This is the distance you need to maintain. You cannot cross your line. It's very different the way you communicate with your peers, whether they are men or women. I think being sensitive, and a woman gets that in the team. It's like, you know, all in a family where there are men grown, and then there is a lady who comes in, there's a change. There's a lot of change. So I think that's where it comes. A very good example is, I think, you know, New Zealand. At the COVID time where Jacinda Ardern, you know, the way she dealt it, I mean, it's because she was a woman and she knew how to deal with the emotional side of what people really needed at that time. And she was successful at it. And I think that's what adds value when they come in.
Absolutely, and she was so open about things, so honest in the things. There is a video that you see where she is addressing her entire country, and she's also putting her baby to sleep. So I think that's very beautiful, where she is compassionate, and she was bringing in that compassionate leadership. And I think all the progress that the country has made has to be because of that.
So according to you, are women-owned businesses as successful as male-owned businesses?
Business is business. Whether owned by a woman or a man, I think, is...
If the business is good, if the idea is good, if there's enough work put in, it will succeed.
I think it depends on more than just gender here. When we talk about success of an organization, there are a lot of things coming into play. And I wouldn't go overboard and say women-run organizations are more successful or men are more successful. I'd like to say, based on the idea that comes in, based on the team that you have, I think they can be equally successful given all the right set of things.
Significant thing to point out here, whether a women-run business or a male-run business, the team has both genders.
Yes.
And it's a team effort. It's a team effort.
Yeah. No, even if it's a completely women-centric or something, there'll be one office boy who gets you some water or tea, something, or some driver. There is some person who's contributing in some form or the other.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a team.
So it's a team effort altogether, and
Yes.
you think that
Always.
I don't
Absolutely.
think it's a women or a man.
Exactly. It's always the team. At Brightside, we have a leadership with a lot of people from different perspectives and different cultures. We actively ensured that our leadership had people from the underrepresented communities. We had people from multiple cultures coming in. We had people from the LGBTQI community. We still have people as serving as our leaders, because that is what sets an example, and that is what brings in perspectives that you will definitely miss out on. You will not be able to know everything, and having a strong team with a lot of cultures, with a lot of perspectives coming from different communities, underrepresented communities, creates the sort of ecosystem that is actually required for an organization to thrive.
So teamwork is the only mantra for success, I think. And how well the leadership is able to take it forward, that is where I think the skills and the capabilities come into place.
So, equity in the workplace helps unleash an individual's true potential. Do you agree with it?
Not just men, anybody else also.
Yeah, right,
because
absolutely.
she was pointing out other genders
when
as
we
well.
talk about equity, it's not just gender equity, right? There are a lot of things. So when we create organizations that go by equity, that means we are creating an organization where every employee has the same access to resources, has the same access to training, has the same opportunities to receive mentoring, has the same opportunities to climb up the ladder and take up leadership roles, rather than based on their gender or based on how long they've been a part of something. It is more about how well they can lead, what are the perspectives that they can bring, how can they embrace change, and how can they take things forward.
When we see equity is also filling up that gap, though you may be on the same page, you're getting everything, but there will be a little more than what is required from the other person. How are you able to bridge that gap is important. You know, here we're talking about equal opportunities, equal resources, everything, but somewhere I fear we need to add that space that the other person is good at, but you know, that little push that is required. One is at a particular skill set. To reach that skill set, one needs a little more additional
the right
thing.
mentoring, basically. And
that's
the
where
point is that
equity comes.
everybody has that access, equal access to that mentoring as well, because it is not like, again, we push somebody and we don't. Everybody gets that opportunity. Everybody gets the push that they need based on what they have.
I think a workplace is supposed to be something that is more in terms of not just gender or anything. It should break the barriers in terms of caste, creed, your color. There are so many other things, as she was saying, there are so many things that you need to be able, and as I think we in the leadership role should be able to pick up what is the best in the person who's sitting in front of us, and how well he'll be able to fit in the organization, and how well he will be able to help the organization to grow. So I think that's where I think all the leaders should think in terms of giving a workspace that is more having, in terms of when we're talking about equity. I think this is where I think we need to focus on, rather than these small little things in terms of gender and that and this and all of that.
Absolutely. For me, when I walk into a room, I don't see who's there. I see who's not there and why they're not there. So for me, it's important that everybody gets a chance at the table, and not just a chance at the table, but they also get the right resources that they need to go forward.
On that note, whether a male leader or a female leader, whoever is empathetic and understanding and drives the team properly, they work. That's what works. I think it's the qualities and not the gender.
And
I think sometimes, I'm sure we've all come at a point where we've had someone in front of us asking for a job or something. Maybe we've been empathetic and we've tried to understand what is the best that they can do, how well they can serve the organization, identified that and given them that, or even made a designation for them.
Exactly.
So I think that is where it matters. And I think because women are a little emotional, they are able to connect to these sort of things a little more. These are the finer details that actually bring a little change in any organization.
And having equity in workplace also ensures economic balance. Now, something that people have been struggling with over many decades, and something that we have been seeing progress in the last 1 decade, is the gap in pay. Both male and female have the same qualifications, have the same education, can do the same job. We used to see that the males are paid more, and this was a very huge issue, and many leaders like Indra Nooyi had spoken about it, and they've made a lot of changes to this, and I think having equity in workspaces ensures economic balance, ensures that people are being paid people are being paid based on merit, based on their education, and not just on gender, not just on class. And I think we've come very far as a society in tackling this issue in the last 1 decade, and the entire credit has to go to equity.
So one last question to conclude this panel discussion with. Can you all tell us about the utterly you side, like your side, utterly your side?
So my utterly you side is being this very enthusiastic and very happy person. I'm very passionate about the work that I do, be it running the NGO or be it running the child therapy center. I'm very passionate about it. I don't look at it like it is work. And I think being that person who is so driven by passion is what gets me going. Or else running two organizations, I would have had a burnout every day by now. So at least I am able to I'm able to be this person who is organically driven, who is so purpose driven. And I think that is what gets me going.
Lovely.
So for me, any human being has their ups and downs, whether professional or personal. Being strong through it.
It actually goes very well. Utterly, butterly, chocolatey,
Yeah.
sweetly, all the least possible. That is me, and that's why I'm in the profession of this, I guess. Yeah.
I think for me, if you ask me, I'm a very empathetic person. So I work with a lot of emotions. I try to give a lot of love around me. I have no judgments. So I think it reflects in my workplace also, and I'm sure that it reflects in my in my staff as well. So we have a very loving environment at school, and I'm very happy for it because at the end of the day, we provide education, and it's a service sector. We at Johnson we don't believe it as a business. So it gives me so much of pleasure at the end of the day to do this. And I'm happy that I'm doing this, and I'm blessed to have been in this family where education has been something very, very important, not just for me, but in fact for my grandfather, my father, and me. I'm glad I have that interest in me. So that is what I could say about myself.
I think this Women's Day, we have to start believing that change comes from home. Unless a home is supportive and unless you have a space where there are no specific gender roles, where people are treated equally and fairly, you can't go out and fight with the world. Unless you have a safe space at home, unless there are dinner table conversations happening about these important issues, and you are given an opportunity to speak, your voice matters at your home, is where it will start mattering outside, is where your confidence builds. And I think that is the sort of message that we have to take forward this Women's Day, that change starts from home.
I think I can just add and say that just because you're a woman, please don't feel that you have certain things that you have to step back. I think you should push yourself, break the boundaries, speak about it, show your true self, and ensure that you're be true to yourself wherever. It can be work, it can be home, it can be anything.
On that note, that change starts at home. I think all four of us at one point have spoken about the support from our families. And on this note, I'd like to thank my parents for raising us equally, for teaching us this, and we are where we are because of them.
Absolutely.
I think parents and siblings as well.
Absolutely.
They add value to it. Absolutely.
Of course, my brother's also a very big support.
I think all the men in our life, I think they've been supportive. I think otherwise we wouldn't have been here. We wouldn't have been in these positions in terms of work as well. So I think kudos to them as well.
They fill in that whole thing, of whether it's a brother or a sister, what I can't, they can, and they can is like. So I guess that's where it comes in.
And
wait.
So
let me ask you, what is that question about utterly you? Let us hear from you.
Oh, okay. Being passionate, like how she has rightly said.
You're passionate.
Very passionate towards talking and giving.
What
proper
makes you utterly you?
presentations.
Passion.
Yeah.
Is that the answer?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very passionate towards talking since my childhood, and I was basically a government employee. I had to quit that and quit my very good government organization and then come out of that, and
people would give an
have to
arm
take
to
this
get
too.
into a government
Yeah.
thing.
I think
It's
I'm not
only
going
facilities,
yeah. I'm not going to say that it's a panel of 4. I think it's a panel of 5.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have you with us as
Thank
well.
you so much.
And your success in terms of the award, despite the award, whatever you've told, I think it's a great inspiration to all of us.
Thank you so much. So this beautiful panel discussion today is an initiative by Taruni for Women's Day to celebrate women leaders and entrepreneurs who are changing the society through equity. So Taruni for Embrace Equity, Unleash the Utterly You.